Hello my friends, and welcome back to Storyline English. Today we have a very special story. It is the story of a man who changed the way we understand the universe. His name was Albert Einstein. He was a physicist, a scientist who studies energy, matter, and the laws of nature. Many people consider him the greatest scientist who ever lived. Let us begin. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879. He was born in a city called Ulm, in Germany. His father was named Hermann Einstein. His father sold electrical equipment, things that used electricity. His mother was named Pauline. She loved music very much. She played the piano beautifully. From his parents, Albert received two great gifts: curiosity from his father, and a love of music from his mother. When Albert was a baby, his parents were worried. He was very slow to talk. He did not say his first word until he was almost 2 years old. When he was 3, he finally spoke, but he always repeated sentences quietly to himself before saying them aloud. His parents took him to doctors, but the doctors said he was healthy. Albert was just different. And different, it turned out, was very good. When Albert was 5 years old, his father showed him something that would change his life forever. His father gave him a magnetic compass, a small instrument with a needle that always points north. Albert held the compass. He turned it in every direction, but the needle always turned back to point north. Albert was amazed. Something invisible was moving the needle. He wanted to know what that invisible force was. Albert's family was Jewish. When Albert was 6, his mother arranged for him to take violin lessons. Albert did not like the lessons at first. His teacher was very strict. But then one day, Albert heard the music of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Something happened inside him. He fell in love with Mozart's music. From that day, he practiced the violin every day. Music became one of the great loves of his life. In 1880, Einstein's family moved to the city of Munich. Albert went to school there. But Albert did not enjoy school very much. His teachers used a method where students had to sit quietly and memorize everything the teacher said. Albert hated this method. He asked too many questions. His teachers were annoyed. One teacher told him, "You will never amount to anything." Albert was not good at memorizing things he did not find interesting. But when something interested him, he could think about it for hours and hours. When he was 12 years old, an uncle gave him a book about algebra. Albert finished the entire book in one summer. He called it the Little Holy Geometry Book. He taught himself calculus, advanced mathematics, before he was 15 years old. When Albert was 15, his family moved to Italy for business reasons. But Albert stayed in Munich alone to finish his school. He was very unhappy. He was lonely. He missed his family. He did not like the German school. One day, he convinced a doctor to write a note saying he was having a nervous breakdown. He used this note to leave the school and follow his family to Italy. In Italy, Albert was very happy. He walked in the countryside. He visited museums. He thought freely about science. He was free of the rigid school system. But there was a problem. Without a school diploma, he could not go to university. He tried to enter the famous Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, the ETH, in Zurich, Switzerland. He failed the entrance exam. He was 16 years old and had failed. Einstein failed the entrance exam because he was not good at French and botany, subjects he did not care about. But the examiners were so impressed by his mathematics and physics scores that the director wrote to him personally. He told him to go study for 1 more year at a school in a small Swiss town called Aarau. Einstein went to Aarau. The school there was very different. Teachers encouraged students to think for themselves. In Aarau, Einstein had a thought that would follow him for 10 years. He imagined, what would happen if you could travel alongside a beam of light? What would the light look like? Would it look like a frozen wave? This thought experiment, this imaginary journey alongside light, was the beginning of the idea that would change physics forever. He was 16 years old when he first had this thought. In 1896, Einstein entered the ETH in Zurich. He was now a university student. He loved his time in Zurich. The city was beautiful. He had friends. He played his violin at parties and concerts. He met a young woman named Mileva. She was a physics student too. She was the only woman in their class. Einstein was very interested in her. They began spending a lot of time together. At the th, Einstein had a problem again with professors. He skipped many lectures and did his own reading instead. He studied the latest ideas in physics that his professors were not teaching. His professors were angry with him. When he graduated in 1900, his professor refused to give him a job as an assistant. Einstein needed to find another way. After graduating, Einstein tried very hard to find a job in physics. He sent applications to universities all over Europe. No one wanted to hire him. His professor at the th refused to recommend him. For 2 years, Einstein was without a steady job. He gave private lessons in mathematics to earn a little money. He was very worried about his future. It was a very difficult time. In 1902, Einstein finally got a job. His friend Marcel Grossmann helped him. Marcel's father knew the director of the patent office in Bern, Switzerland. Einstein applied for a job there. He was hired as a patent examiner, 3rd class. His job was to read descriptions of new inventions and decide if they were original and scientifically sound. It was not a physics research job, but it paid him a salary, and it gave him time to think. The patent office job turned out to be perfect for Einstein. He was very fast at his work. He could finish his official tasks quickly. Then he used the rest of his working time to think about physics. He hid his physics papers in a drawer when his boss walked by. He called his desk drawer the Department of Theoretical Physics. His colleagues liked him. He was funny and kind and easy to work with. In 1903, Einstein married Mileva. They had already had a daughter before their marriage. The daughter's name was Liesel. But Liesel was given up for adoption. It is not known exactly what happened to her. After marriage, Einstein and Mileva had 2 sons, Hans Albert and Eduard. Their home in Bern was simple but happy. They had friends who came for dinner and talked about science and music and life. In Bern, Einstein had a small discussion group with 2 friends, Marcel Grossmann and Michel Bessot. They met regularly to talk about science and philosophy and ideas. They called their group the Olympia Academy, as a joke, because they met in a small apartment, not a grand building. These conversations were very important for Einstein. He could test his ideas by talking about them. Michel Bessot especially helped him think. Then came the year 1905. Einstein was 26 years old. He was working at the patent office. He had a wife and a young child. He had no laboratory. He had no university position. He had no funding. But in this single year, 1905, Einstein published 4 scientific papers. Each one of these papers changed physics forever. Scientists call 1905 Einstein's miracle year. In German, they call it the Annus Mirabilis. The first paper Einstein published in 1905 explained something called the photoelectric effect. When light hits certain metals, it produces electricity. Scientists knew this happened, but no one could explain why. Einstein explained it. He said that light is not just a wave. Light is also made of tiny packets of energy. He called these packets quanta. Later, they were called photons. This idea was the beginning of quantum physics. The second paper explained something called Brownian motion. If you put tiny particles in water and look at them under a microscope, they move in random zigzag patterns. No one understood why. Einstein explained that the particles are being pushed by water molecules, tiny particles of water that are too small to see. His paper proved mathematically that atoms and molecules really exist. Some scientists at that time still doubted atoms were real. The third and fourth papers in 1905 were the most revolutionary of all. They contained Einstein's special theory of relativity. The theory said something that no one had ever said before. Time is not fixed. Space is not fixed. They can stretch and change. The faster you move, the slower time passes for you. 2 people moving at different speeds will experience time differently. Nothing in the universe had ever been described this way before. From the special theory of relativity came the most famous equation in history. E equals mc squared. This small equation says something enormous. It says that energy and mass are the same thing. They can be converted into each other. The letter E is energy. The letter m is mass. The letter c is the speed of light. Because the speed of light is very, very large, even a tiny amount of mass contains an unimaginable amount of energy. When Einstein sent his papers to the most important physics journal in the world, The editor read them. He published them all. But at first, the scientific community did not react much. Most physicists did not understand the papers. Some ignored them. Some did not believe them. Einstein sat in his patent office and waited. And then, slowly, the greatest physicists in the world began to read his work. And they were stunned. The greatest physicist in the world at that time was a German man named Max Planck. Planck was the one who had first introduced the idea of quanta, the idea that energy comes in tiny packets. Planck read Einstein's papers. He was deeply impressed. He began writing to Einstein. He told other physicists about him. Planck's support was very important. Slowly, the world of physics began paying attention to the young patent clerk from Bern. In 1909, Einstein finally got his first university job. He was appointed professor at the University of Zurich. He was 30 years old. He was very happy. But he was a very unusual kind of professor. He let students call him by his first name. He told them to interrupt him whenever they had a question. He forgot to eat lunch. He wore old clothes. But his lectures were fascinating and his students loved him. Einstein's reputation was growing fast. In 1911, he moved to Prague to become a professor. In 1912, he came back to Zurich. In 1913, the greatest offer of his career arrived. Max Planck and another famous physicist personally traveled to Zurich to ask Einstein to come to Berlin. They offered him the best position in all of European science, director of his own institute, professor at the university, and member of the Prussian Academy of Sciences. Einstein said yes. While Einstein was becoming more and more famous for special relativity, he was secretly working on something even bigger. He had noticed a problem with his theory. It described how things move when they move at constant speed. But what about acceleration? What about gravity? He began working on a new, bigger theory. He called it the general theory of relativity. It took him 10 years to complete it. The general theory of relativity said something completely new about gravity. Before Einstein, people used Isaac Newton's explanation of gravity. Newton said gravity is a force that pulls objects toward each other. Einstein said something different. He said that massive objects bend the fabric of space and time itself, like a heavy ball placed on a stretched rubber sheet. Other objects move toward them because they follow the curve in space. In November 1915, Einstein published the final version of his general theory of relativity. He later said that he felt a sense of joy so pure that he could not describe it. His heart beat fast. He wrote to a friend, "I was beside myself with joy for several days." He was sure the theory was right. But science does not accept ideas just because they are beautiful. It needs proof. And proof would come in 1919. The general theory of relativity made a prediction that could be tested. Einstein said that light bends when it passes near a massive object like the sun. Stars near the sun should appear to be in a slightly different position than they really are, because the sun's gravity bends their light. But you can only see stars near the sun during a total solar eclipse. Scientists had to wait for an eclipse to test Einstein's prediction. In May 1919, a total solar eclipse was visible over parts of Africa and South America. A British astronomer named Arthur Eddington led an expedition to measure star positions during the eclipse. After many months of careful measurement and calculation, Eddington announced his results. The stars near the sun were exactly where Einstein's theory predicted they would be. Einstein was right. The theory was confirmed. The next morning, the newspapers all over the world had Einstein on the front page. Lights all askew in the heavens wrote the New York Times. Newton's theory overthrown wrote other papers. Overnight, Albert Einstein became the most famous scientist in the world. He was 40 years old. Suddenly, everyone wanted to meet him, photograph him, hear him speak. His life changed completely in one day. Einstein was not prepared for fame. He did not enjoy being treated like a celebrity. He was a simple man. He liked to walk. He liked to play his violin. He liked to sail on lakes. He liked to talk with friends about ideas. But now wherever he went, crowds followed him. Reporters knocked on his door. Photographers took his picture. He tried to be kind to everyone. But the fame was sometimes overwhelming. In 1921, Einstein won the Nobel Prize in Physics. But he did not win it for relativity, which is surprising. He won it for his explanation of the photoelectric effect, the first paper from his miracle year of 1905. Many scientists still did not fully accept relativity as proven. Einstein was in Japan when he found out he had won. He heard the news by telegram. He gave his prize money to his ex-wife Mileva. Einstein's personal life was not always happy. His marriage to Mileva ended in divorce in 1919. It was a difficult and painful separation. He had not been a good husband. He was always working, always thinking. After the divorce, he married his cousin Elsa Einstein. Elsa was a warm and practical woman. She took care of him. She made sure he ate and slept and dressed properly. Einstein was grateful for her care. In the 1920s and 1930s, Einstein became deeply troubled by world events. He was Jewish, and in Germany, a movement called Nazism was growing. The Nazis were people who believed that Germans were superior to all other people. They hated Jewish people with a terrible hatred. Einstein was one of the most famous Jewish people in the world. He spoke out publicly against the Nazis. This was a very brave and dangerous thing to do. In January 1933, Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany. Einstein was in America at the time, giving lectures at Princeton. He heard the news. He knew immediately that he could never go back to Germany. The Nazis had already attacked his work. They called his theories Jewish physics and said it was not real science. The Nazis took his property in Germany. They put a price on his head. He was a hunted man. Einstein settled in Princeton, New Jersey, in America. He joined the newly created Institute for Advanced Study. He had a small office. He had a blackboard and chalk. He walked to work every day. He lived simply. His neighbors saw him walking to the shop to buy ice cream. Children in the neighborhood loved him. He always had time to talk to children and answer their questions. He said children asked the best questions. In Princeton, Einstein continued working. He was searching for something he called the unified field theory. He wanted to find one single equation that would explain everything in the universe, gravity and electromagnetism and quantum physics, all together in one beautiful formula. He worked on this for the rest of his life. He never found it. But many scientists today are still searching for the same thing. In August 1939, Einstein did something that troubled him for the rest of his life. He signed a letter to the President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt. The letter warned that Germany might be building a very powerful new bomb, an atomic bomb, using the principles of his equation E equals mc squared. Einstein asked Roosevelt to begin research to build one first. This letter helped start the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project built the atomic bomb. In August 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs on two Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Over 200,000 people died. When Einstein heard the news, he was devastated. He had not worked on the bomb himself, but he felt responsible. His equation E equals mc squared was the scientific foundation of the weapon. He said, "I could burn my fingers that I wrote that letter to Roosevelt." After the war, Einstein became one of the world's most important voices for peace. He spoke against nuclear weapons. He worked with Bertrand Russell, a famous British philosopher, to write a document called the Russell-Einstein Manifesto. It was a warning to all governments that nuclear war could end all human life on Earth. It called on all nations to solve their problems peacefully. It was signed by the most important scientists in the world. In his final years in Princeton, Einstein was a beloved figure. Everyone in the town knew him. He was kind and humble and funny. He hated wearing socks. He said socks were unnecessary. He had a small sailboat that he loved. He went sailing on lakes near Princeton whenever he could. He said sailing helped him think. He also played his violin almost every evening. Music was still his great comfort. Einstein also had a famous friendship with a young African-American student named Marian Anderson, one of the greatest singers in America. When a hotel in Princeton refused to let her stay because of her race, Einstein personally invited her to stay in his home. He was a strong opponent of racism his whole life. He said, "The separation of races is not a disease of the colored people but a disease of the white people." In April 1955, Einstein became very ill. He had an aneurysm, a problem with a blood vessel near his heart. His doctor told him he needed an operation. Einstein refused. He said, "I want to go when I want to go. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go. I will do it elegantly. He was 76 years old. He faced death with complete calm. On the night of April 17, 1955, Albert Einstein died in his sleep at Princeton Hospital. He was 76 years old. A nurse was with him when he died. He said some words in German just before he died, words the nurse could not understand because she did not speak German. To the very end, his last words were in the language of his thoughts, the language of a German Jewish boy from Ulm who changed the universe. After Einstein died, a doctor at the hospital did something that Einstein had not given permission for. The doctor removed Einstein's brain. He wanted to study it. He kept the brain for decades. Scientists studied it. They found that Einstein's brain had some unusual features. The part of the brain used for mathematical and spatial thinking was larger than average, and the grooves in it were arranged differently. Today, Albert Einstein's name means genius. When we want to say someone is very smart, we say, "He is an Einstein." His face, the wild white hair, the kind eyes, the mustache, is one of the most recognizable faces in human history. His theories changed physics, technology, and our understanding of the universe. GPS satellites use his theories to calculate positions accurately. Nuclear energy uses his equation. He is everywhere. Albert Einstein was born a child who was slow to talk. His teachers said he would never amount to anything. He failed his university entrance exam. He could not find a job. He worked as a patent clerk. And from a desk in a patent office, with no laboratory and no funding, he changed our understanding of space, time, energy, matter, and the universe forever. His greatest tool was not a microscope or a telescope. It was his imagination. Thank you for listening to Storyline English. If you like this story, please subscribe and share with your friends. We will see you next time.